How's it going, everybody? Mr. Whiskers back. How to choose running shoes if you're a beginner. Let's dive into a few things to consider if you're about to start running. I know it's the new year, so a lot of people have different fitness goals. Running typically tends to be one for a lot of people, which is great. For me, I love running. I've been running pretty serious now the past 5-6 years. I do help facilitate a run club in my local area. It's called Riot AZ. Stands for Running is Our Therapy. So for me, it is one of those things where running is great, not only for health reasons, but also for mental health reasons. So for me, it's a way to process. It's a way to escape my day. So if I'm having a tough time at work or just a lot going on in life, to throw on some music, hit the road for a few miles and just escape is something that I love. So if you're thinking about getting into running, I would definitely say do it. I know it is a bit daunting if you're a beginner, especially if you are in it for the health aspect in terms of maybe losing weight. The hard part with runners is the comparison. So a lot of people compare to other runners way too much, and it discourages them from actually going out there and just getting done what they need to get done. Especially once you start asking people, how fast of a mile do you run? Some people run 6-minute miles, some people run 12-minute miles. The reality is a mile is a mile. So for you, if you're new to running, don't go out there and think that you just have to blast through and get the fastest mile you can every time. It's not necessarily about that in the beginning. In the beginning, it's just about getting out there and doing it, making it happen, pushing yourself to the limits, which if that's running a 15-minute mile, so be it. If that means you run for a little bit, walk a little bit until you complete your miles that you're looking to hit for the day, so be it. So don't be discouraged. Don't compare yourself. Figure out why you're doing this and dive into it. So shoes, when it comes to shoes, that's why we're here, right? So right here in my hand, I have a Pegasus 35 Turbo. It's made by Nike, as you could tell with the big swoosh on the side. So when it comes to picking shoes, a few things I want you to consider as you make your purchase. One, don't worry about brands. A lot of people are going to pick shoes based off a brand because they're in love with that brand, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But when it does come to running, you need to find a shoe that's good for your foot. A lot of people love Nike because the brand's known worldwide, but a lot of people don't have narrow feet that fit Nikes, especially when it comes to running. That's one of the biggest complaints I hear most people when it comes to Nike shoes is it's just not wide enough for their foot. And to be honest, I respect that, right? And it's one thing to understand that, know it, and move on from it. So if you have a foot that's a little bit wider and you can't find a Nike shoe that fits your foot, by all means, there are a lot of other great running shoe companies out there. Hoka One is great. Brooks Running is great. Sauconys are great. On running shoes are great, and many more. Even nowadays, Adidas with their Boost. A lot of people like running in those. Perhaps Puma, Reebok. So Nike is just the preferred shoe brand that I use. So this is something. This is why I have a Nike shoe in my hand. So get brands out of your way and really go and look for a shoe that's going to meet your needs. The biggest thing is, how do you know what you need? So I'm going to encourage you for step 2, go to a local running store in your town and connect with them, because they can do tests and different things on your foot, on your stride, on your gait, to really recommend what's going on with your foot and how you run. So some people, when they run, they're not an even striker. So a lot of people don't have a neutral. Some people run on the inside of their foot. Some people run on the outside of their foot. So for you, go ahead and grab a pair of shoes and see, is your shoes wearing evenly, or are your shoes rubbing on one side or the other? So for example, if you notice the inside of your shoes are all looking like this, that means you pronate. So they actually make shoes with technology that is built in to make it firmer on this side to bring your foot up to where now you are level with the ground. So for you, make sure you're going to find a shoe that has that extra support if you pronate. Some people actually run on the outsides of their foot, which is called supinate. So if you do run on the outside of your foot, again, there are different shoes out there that actually have technology built in that's going to correct your foot to make it to where it's beneficial for you. Running in the wrong shoe can cause a lot of health problems. It can hurt your legs, it can hurt your knees, it can hurt your hips. And it's honestly just going to make it not enjoyable for you, which is going to get in the way of whatever goals that you have set out for you with fitness or with running. Even blisters on your feet, black toenails. There are just a lot of things that come into running that if you choose the wrong shoe, it can have major negative impacts on you. So get connected with the running store and see where your foot stands. Some people are heel strikers, and some people are like mid-front strikers. What does that mean? So when you run, where are you landing? Are you landing on the heel of your foot, or are you landing on the forefront of your foot when you land? Those are things that most people don't always consider. So for step 3, figure out which striker you are. So for Nike specifically, not necessarily on these shoes, but with some of the Pegasus that they have that are normal, they have different technology in the forefront, or they have different technology in the heel. So depending on which striker that you are, you could buy a shoe that actually meets your needs a little bit more. So Nike has what's called Zoom Air. So it's like cushion it's almost like a spring that's super responsive. So if you land on your forefront of your foot, it's going to help you with that. Or if you're a heel striker, when you land, it's going to help be more responsive back there. So that is something to keep in mind. But again, you would never know that if you are getting into running in the first place. So I will say again, this is something that you can ask when you do go to a shoe company or a shoe store to get tested to see what works for you. Then I'm going to say step 4 while you're at the shoe company is see if you need a stability shoe. What do I mean by stability? So some people, when they run, they're going to rock their feet. So you may not have as much stability to where your foot is shaking a little bit, maybe inside the shoe and just with your ankles. Like I said, Nike specifically, they have shoes that have built-in technology. They call them heel clips. That's actually going to stabilize your foot. So when you run, you're not having that rocking. So a heel clip is going to help with that. Other run companies have the same thing. They may call it something different. Again, I'm just speaking to what I know with Nike. But that's something to keep into mind. Do you shake a little bit? So not only do we have, do you supinate? Do you pronate? Are you neutral? We have, are you a heel striker? Are you a forefront striker? And then we have stability shoe. So those are 3 things you need to keep in mind when you do go to the store and talk to somebody to help get tested out to see what works best for you. And then the last tip I'm going to say is there are different types of shoes in terms of cushion and stability that they offer in general. So Nike, a lot of people have heard of the Free Run Flyknits. So a Free Run shoe is basically a barefoot shoe. If you've ever worn one, a lot of people like it because it doesn't feel like you're wearing a shoe and it feels like you're running around barefoot, which if you're out running errands, that's great. If you're 100 pounds and you're 5'3" and you're out running on free runs, that's great. They're going to have some cushion built into the shoe, but at the same time, they're not going to have a lot because the whole goal again is to feel like you're running barefoot. Now, the next step up would be a shoe like the Peg Turbo. It does have more cushion. It's called a mid-range shoe. So it's going to have more cushion, but it's going to be responsive. So it's going to have you be a little bit more springy to where when you take steps down, it's going to be more responsive, but you're going to have more cushion than you would in what's called a barefoot runner or a flat runner. And then the next step up is typically your more cushion shoe, where it's going to have the max level of cushion to where when you step in, you're really going to feel it almost like you're stepping on a marshmallow, right? Or a memory foam thing, to where it's not going to be as responsive, but it's going to have a lot of cushion. Now, it's important to keep those things in mind, especially based on who you are, your height, your weight, different things like that. For me, 5'11", 180. Personally, I like running in the middle of the pack runners that have the cushion, but they're more responsive. I've ran in extremely cushioned shoes before, and honestly, it hurts my hips. As weird as that might sound. And for me, when it comes to the barefoot runners or the lowest level where they don't have a lot of cushion, I don't like those at all. Personally, I don't like the way they feel on my feet. I don't like the way my legs feel when I run. So for me, I've messed around with enough to where I like the middle of the range runners, whether it's New Balance, whether it's Saucony, whether it's Hoka One. That's what I prefer in any runner, even though I mainly stick to Nikes. My roommate, 6'5", 280, was running in barefoot runners. They were killing his knees. He hated running, but he hated running not so much because the running itself, like out of wind or that part. He hated running because how much it hurt his knees. Well, he was picking a shoe that was not good for him. So finally he upgraded to shoes with more cushion, and now when he gets out there, his legs feel better to where he can focus on running and actually enjoy it a little bit more instead of like being frustrated because the way the body feels after the fact. So if you're short, and perhaps if you do weigh a little bit more, you might not want to go with a shoe that has very thin cushioning. You might want to go with a little bit more. At the same time, if you're extremely lightweight runner, for you, maybe you want cushion, maybe you don't. So with that, I'm going to encourage you guys to probably start at the middle. Typically, if you do go into the store, you should be able to try a shoe on, whether it's a Nike store, whether it's any running store, and they should let you run on the treadmill to figure it out. Now, the reality is a 5-minute run is not going to tell you whether or not you love a shoe. So I would encourage you to go to a place that has a decent return policy. One thing I do like about Nike is that if you went and bought a shoe in store, you could wear it for 30 days. And if it wasn't working out for you, you could take it back in and return it or exchange it. So the reason I like that is especially for a runner, you can't tell in the store. You're going to be able to tell after your first couple big runs. So I would say start in the middle and go buy the shoe, get out there on the road, try it out for a few weeks, break the shoe in, and then see how it fits on your foot. Because I think that's going to help gauge whether or not you're like, wow, this is just too much cushion, I don't like it, or if it's not enough cushion, or for you, maybe it's like, this is perfect. If you think because of your body type, a cushion shoe, a more cushion shoe is going to be best for you, then by all means start there. But the nice thing is when you go into a running store, the person that's working with you should be able to help you out with recommending what's going to work best for you. Now, again, it's just a recommendation based on a few factors. The main thing to remember is you know your foot and you know you. So if you try a shoe on that the person recommends and your foot feels terrible in it, just be honest with yourself and that person to try to get you into the right shoe. Because in theory, it should be the right shoe for you, but everybody's foot's a little bit different. And so I would encourage you to take their recommendations, try them on, get in the treadmill. So when you go to the store, don't go after work in your work clothes. Maybe go in some shorts when you have some leisure clothes on so that you can get on the treadmill and run and try it out a little bit. Because again, just being in the right shoe makes the world of a difference. It'll make a difference on your leg muscles, on your body. It'll change the way you view running, minus the sucking wind and the struggling part. Depending on how hard you're pushing yourself, it makes a big difference. Think about it. If you wear dress shoes, if you're a guy, if you're wearing like dress shoes for a woman, maybe heels or platforms or flats, the wrong shoe makes a big difference. It'll kill your feet, and then you'll never want to do something again in those shoes. Same thing with running. So your feet are king in running. Your feet are queen in running. You got to take care of your feet. Make sure you have a little bit of room, because some people, when they run, their feet will swell a little bit. If you've ever wanted to know how to get black toenails, wear a shoe that's too small, that keeps your toe sliding into the edge. And that's something that's going to help give you black toenails. It's a lot of fun, trust me. And probably lastly too, just like a bonus tip, just make sure you're buying shoes for the terrain you're running in. If you want to be a trail runner, they actually have shoes that have better tread for trails, so that if you step on rocks, it's not going to puncture the bottom. And they might have a little guard up by the toe, so if you do kick rocks, it's going to help. These are street shoes, so I would not wear these on trails. But also, if you're going to be a street runner, you do have a little bit more options if you're going to run on a track. So know the level that you want to run in. I wouldn't go hiking in runners. Again, Nike does make running shoes with terrain to go hiking in and different things like that. So I'm sure a lot of the other shoe companies do as well. So keep that in mind as you go through this journey. There are other tips and things that we can into, but we could save that for later. But the big thing is, especially if you're new to running, find the right shoe. It's important. And pay attention to price. If you want a $50 running shoe, you're going to get your $50 value, I'm sure. A lot of runners are going to range from $100 to possibly $200, maybe a little bit more. Understand that a lot of that does come to technology in your shoe that does help perform, and it's preventative when it does come to injuries. If you wear a cheap shoe, your body will notice it. So if this is something you're serious about, doesn't mean you got to go buy the priciest runner, but just consider your price range and give yourself some leeway, because this is something you're potentially going to be wearing for the next 300 to 400 miles. And so you don't want to put a bad shoe on your foot for that. So be aware that it does cost a little bit when it comes to buying a decent running shoe that's going to be good for your foot, which in the long run is going to prevent injury. And so, if you're injured, you're not reaching your goals, you're sitting at home, now you have a bitter taste in your mouth for running, and you're really starting to backtrack. So leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you're new to running or if you're thinking about getting into running. I'm a big advocate of just getting connected into a community. So again, I help facilitate a run club out here in Arizona with 3 other awesome people. And there's just something about running with a group. Running alone is also awesome because, like I said, you can zone out from the world. You just throw music on and have a good time. But there is something to say about running with a group of people that can motivate and encourage you. For us, we get a lot of first-time runners that come to our group. We just hang out, run, have fun, get them connected to the running community. And then months later, it's neat to see them complete their first 5K race, their first 10K race, their first half marathon, and for a few people, their first ever marathon. So for a lot of us, maybe we didn't think we could ever run a marathon or even a half marathon, or for some people, even a 5K, right? It's one of those things to where each of us are different, but in a group, when you're connected with the right people, they celebrate all victories. And for some people, it's just running a mile. For some people, it might be running a 50-mile race. So running is like that. It's competitive, but it's not always competing with others. A lot of times at this stage in life, it's just about competing with yourself and pushing yourself to be a better runner. If you are super competitive and you're looking to win your half marathon race, you're looking to win that 5K, you're looking to win that 10K, that's awesome, right? Find a group of people that's going to help train with you and push you to be the best you can. And if you're into it just to collect a medal and have fun, to tell yourself, yes, I can run this half, I'm going to go get it, by all means, just compete with yourself with that. So in your journey, find the right shoe, mess around with different shoes, maybe different brands to see what does fit your shoe best. But like I said, leave a comment. I'd love to be a part of you and be a part of your journey and help out with encouragement or anything like that. Also, if you can, my goal this year for YouTube is just to gain 1,000 subscribers. So if you can subscribe to the channel, that would be great. Leave a comment if you like these how-to videos. Again, running is my thing. I probably run at least 50, 60 miles every month. I have a lot of friends that do more, some that do less, but for me, it's just something fun that I enjoy. So I would love to connect with you and encourage you along in your journey. So again, leave a comment. Look forward to hearing from you. And welcome to 2020. Get those goals.